Ready? You're Switzerland. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the second meeting of the Ways and Means budget hearings. Please stand and salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call the members, please.
Roll call of the members of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. Councilor Morabito.
Here.
Here. Councilor Powers is absent. Councilor Silvestri.
Here.
Here. Councilor Zambuto. Absent. President Pro Tempore McKenna. Absent. Chairman Visconti.
Here.
Here. Quorum is present.
Okay. First group on the agenda, I think what we can do is start with the mayor's office. And we also have in attendance Councilor Novoselsky. So if we can note that as well. And, Oh, and Anthony Cogliandro. Sorry, Anthony. I just think you're like a fixture here, so I think that you're on the committee. How's that? That's page 6 and 7. Okay. Welcome, Acting Mayor Keefe.
Good evening, Councilor Visconti, honorable body. I have our budget in front of us. As you can see, it's pretty cut and dry. I'm not sure if you have any questions regarding the budget. This is what we're intending on putting forward for the year.
Okay. If you want to start off, we can start off if there's any questions from members of the committee. It's pretty clean cut, but anybody? Okay. I think the only question that came up on my behalf after looking at it is, it looks as though contracted services increased. Can you go into detail what the contracted services are, why the increase, and you know, you're looking at fiscal year 2023. I think there was about up to date about a $63,000 expense right now, and now we've raised it to about 100,000. So everything else.
I don't think it changed. I just think I'm sorry. I just think that 100,000 is on the wrong line. It was level funded from last year.
Say that again.
It's a level funded budget. I just think if you're looking at that summary page,
Yeah.
I just think it's down one slot.
And Councilor, Chairman Visconti, also, I think year to date, we will be closer to 90 plus 95. So it just gives a small cushion. Contracted services are, you know, a lot of times we do have to hire outside firms to do certain representations. So it just gives us a slight cushion, but not much, maybe a few $1,000s.
Okay. Well,
The mayor's budget is basically level funded for expenses.
Okay.
Without the $500,000 that we put in there for contract
I remember that.
have all settled. So I just think on that summary page, the alignment dropped that 100,000 down a line by accident. But if you look at page 11, you'll see it's a level funded from last year.
okay. What is the contracted services again? Can you go into, like, what are the expenses out of that line item?
Different consulting firms. There's a PR consulting firm. There's a few different that fall into there, but ultimately that's what comes out of that budget.
Okay. So PR for the city, I take it, right?
Correct.
Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct.
I'm understanding?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. It's, the payroll's level funded, so it's not any increases in expenses as well. If there's no questions from the committee, thank you. Pretty simple.
Thank you. And Chairman Visconti, I'd like to also wish Councilor Silvestri happy birthday.
Oh, Happy birthday, Mark.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was trying to get through it without that, but appreciate it.
21, right? There you go. Always 21. Okay. Moving along, we can continue on with talent and culture, and that is section 2, page 12 to 15 or 16, something like that, yeah. Great, welcome, Claudia.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Okay. Can you, you have the floor, so tell us a little bit about the department, what you guys are doing, and, you know, talent and culture seems to be, you know, when residents ask, they ask what you guys do. So,
Sure. Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Help us, let's inform the residents of what that department does and gets accomplished throughout the year. How's that?
Sure. Thank you. Yes. And of course, people ask, as you know, is one of those new departments that were created based on operational and residential needs. The word talent, the way we address it is we have human resources under our department, and that's how we are making sure that we are supporting our workforce by providing them with support through human resources. Externally, what we have done is that we actually have provided training to, for example, high school students on interviewing skills, resume building. In addition to that, we have established relationship with local businesses to see if we can partner on job opportunities for Riviera residents. So the main goal through talent is to make sure that we're supporting our workforce, but also that we offering services to those out there that seek that type of service. Even some folks who have come to City Hall seeking for job opportunities, and we actually, through our partnership, we send them to local businesses. Some of them have expressed that they need help with building their resume, that they haven't built their resume in many years, and asking us for interviewing tips. When we talk about culture, it's around making sure that every city department is supported through resources and education, especially making them aware of our residents' needs, the diverse cultures that are out there, neurodiversity. As you know, everybody seeks information in different ways, understands it in different ways. So the main goal is to make sure that our departments are fully equipped with all the cultural knowledge that they need in order to deliver good services to our residents. And externally, a lot of, as I'm sure you experience, our goal is to make sure that we also change the culture as to how residents perceive City Hall and city employees. Unfortunately, in the past, people didn't have a good image of City Hall employees, but our goal is to actually expose the hard work they do. And also share with residents what each department does. And that goes in alignment with education to residents that in the past may not have felt comfortable navigating City Hall services. But through that education, we have been able to partner with local organizations to make sure that, like we said, to change that perception about City Hall. And we have seen an increase in compliance. As a matter of fact, residents feel more comfortable accessing city services and abiding by local, by local, state, and federal codes. For example, the building code and other regulations that we know residents didn't feel comfortable navigating through. So in addition to that, under talent and culture, we have the community school, which has served over 1,000 residents throughout last year by offering computer classes, ESL classes. And that department also employs about 20 people. They're part-time, and as you know, the community school has been around for for a decade. They just celebrated the 10-year anniversary, and they continue to provide services that are very important to residents. Also, under talent and culture, we oversee the Youth Works program. And through that program, on grant-based funding, we are looking actually this year to hire about more than 50 young adults in the community for summer programs. And this is different from the Parks and Recs program. And needless to say, like we said, the other important work that we're doing through YouthWorks is that we have been establishing relationships with big brothers and big sisters to bring a mentorship program to City Hall, where we're going to invite, we're actually been invited, and some of our city department heads have already signed up to become mentors with our youth out in the community. We also oversee the language access program. And it's a program that we noticed there was a huge need to make sure we're translating communication pieces to residents. And as you may know, based on census data, as a matter of fact, 53% of residents in the city of Revere speak other language aside from English. And through that program, we have been able to translate about 800 pieces of communication that have gone out to residents. And even when we implemented our bilingual greeter at the door, we have been able to serve more than 3,000 residents in their own languages as they come through the door seeking services. So that's pretty much what we do. We have been doing. Our next big project and good project is to work with the Disabilities Commission, continue to work with them to make sure that we also addressing the need to implement and to make sure that we're in compliance with ADA regulations, to make sure that our buildings are in compliance, to make sure that we're reaching out to that community that out there that require special needs. And through our work, we also have come across seniors with special needs that we had not the opportunity to serve in the past. So that's what we do.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to councilors on the committee first. Councilor Maravito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Claudia, thank you for giving that broad scope of what your department does. Can you just go down the line of positions and let us know the roles and responsibility of each position?
Sure, absolutely. So the Chief of Talent Culture, that's me. I'm in charge of the other departments I just mentioned and the work that we've been doing. The Director of Youth Success is in charge of making connections, like we said, with the YouthWorks grant team, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, making sure that we're establishing mentoring relationships with the youth, working with the schools, and also building the student committees, and also the Director of Youth Success has been instrumental on having conversations with large business partners such as Amazon to make sure that we are addressing the need down the road to make sure that our youth is involved and have access to a lot of these opportunities. Along the line, also, the Director of Youth Success has been instrumental in making sure that we are participating during early dismissal with seniors to make sure that we are providing them that training that we talked about earlier. The Youth Work Success Coordinator is funded through the Youth Works Grant, and the job of the coordinator is to connect the youth with the employers, and that means conducting interviews, collecting paperwork to make sure they're on the payroll, amongst other stuff such as writing the grant. So it's definitely a crucial part of the program. The Language Justice Coordinator is in charge of intaking all the inquiries from every single department when it comes to when there's the need to translate a document. Also, that person is in charge of making sure that they're translators at every public meetings. For example, the Department of Economic Development, based on residents' request, they request that, especially in Richmond, as many have seen, we have seen an increase for have translators, Arabic and Spanish translators. So the Language Justice Coordinator is in charge of making sure that that is happening. Also, the coordinator is in charge of making sure that if we need to contract outside services such as ASL, someone that, we don't have an employee that does sign language. So when that's needed, that's the job of this coordinator. The Riviera Community School clerk, too, is actually a part-time person that supports the director of the community school when it comes to providing all the services to the 1,000 residents or so that we just talked about for computer classes, ESL classes, and so forth.
I think you summed it up. How long, last year, was there a director of youth success?
Correct.
There was?
Yes.
Because I notice that person has a lot of tenure in the business. I just maybe, you can let me know who that is off the record.
Oh, sure. It's Dr. Perello. He was with the schools, and yeah, he has been around for quite a while, yes.
That position was added last year.
It was added last year,
It was
correct.
added
Yeah,
last year.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we just moved things around, but it was on last year, yes.
It wasn't on the budget, it wasn't in the budget last year.
I didn't think so. It came in after the
Correct.
budget, yeah.
Correct.
It is an opera-funded position.
It's an opera-funded position like a few of the other positions as well. I'd like to mention that Council McKenna is here as well. Council Cogliandro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Claudia, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the explanation. I know a lot of people it's a newer department. A lot of people are wondering what it's about, so great explanation. So speaking of ARPA, we have three positions that are funded by it, and I see that your request was for roughly 305,000 more. Is that to start helping maybe to fund these as soon as the funds run out, or just curious?
I will require our Chief Financial Officer answer that question.
Sure. Just to answer the question, we do have 2 positions funded within the appropriated budget, and 4 of those positions are funded through the American Rescue Plan Act. So I think the total budget for fiscal year '24, $313,590, is slightly above the amount adopted in fiscal year 2023 of $290,114. So it's while there are more than 2 positions within that budget, like I said, 4 of those are funded through the American Rescue Plan Act, and I'll be giving a presentation later on the ARPA funds, but I think it's pretty well known that some of these positions that have been brought on with this money that's about to expire, one of the challenges for the next mayor is to be how we assimilate these positions into the budget or try to keep them funded as long as the future mayor finds them useful.
Thank you. That's kind of what I was asking. As we learn how important this department is, I think it's important that we figure out how we're going to fund it. So that's all. Thank you so much.
Correct, of course.
Any other questions from any of the councilors? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I just have a couple. I guess, obviously, we talked about the funding cliff here on these positions. Are there any, is your department looking at any grants that are out there to try to help fund these? Because obviously, you look at these numbers, this department in a short period of time has gone up, obviously, and, you're looking at about $281,000 that's being funded by ARPA. And listen, I'm one of those people that are always concerned about the spending of ARPA money, but, sooner or later, that money's gone. And that's going to be a concern for a lot of these departments. So I'm wondering if there's any grants out there that you guys are looking for to try to maintain some of these positions not going into the general fund.
Correct, yeah.
And I'll leave that to you to answer.
Sure. Yeah, it's a legitimate concern, Councilor, and it's not just a legitimate concern for the employees, but for the residents too. Like I said, even through the dispositions, we have served almost, like I said, good over 3,000 residents in just 6 months in their own languages, which has helped them navigate the system and navigate the city hall services. So it is a legitimate concern. Yes, we are definitely looking to see if any grants are out there. As you may know, the push to make sure that cities are in compliance with with laws such as the EEO, which is Equal Employment Opportunity, and making sure that there is access to residents to services. There are some opportunities that we're seeking, but yeah, these oppositions definitely, we see that they're essential moving forward, especially from the feedback that we're getting from residents that request these services.
Okay. And, you know, looking at these, looking at the expenses, looks like there is, you requested for contracted services, $55,000 for contracted services. What is that? Last year, it looks like, or year-to-date, let's say it was 7,900 has been used so far, so why the 55,000? And can you explain exactly what the contracted services, who's being contracted, and
Sure.
what is it exactly?
Of course, yeah. So, like we mentioned, a lot of residents have requested that a lot of the meetings are translated, and as of right now, we have a good number of employees who speak different languages within the city. However, not all of them qualify for overtime. So sometimes for afternoon meetings, we have to seek out translation services for Vietnamese and other languages. Obviously, we want to be mindful of people that request the ASL interpretation, and those are costly. If you try to see how much a translator charges per hour, we're talking about the range of $150 to $250 per hour, not to mention that the equipment that they need to bring with them in most instances too. That also talks to our team definitely translates a lot of information, especially flyers. But when we have to translate documents that are, let's say, 10, 15 pages in a timely manner, or even newsletters that sometimes are 20 to 25 pages, and we have to meet a deadline, sometimes we have to seek out contractor services for to make sure we meet in the deadlines, and these type of communication, especially newsletters, go on in a timely manner.
Okay, so for the most part, those are translation contracted services, is that right?
Correct, yes, and also trainings. Like we said, our main goal is to provide trainings to our staff, but through HR, we also have some services that are connected, but for this budget purpose is mainly for translation services.
And the other expenses,
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
and
Yes.
the other expenses along with, I know you mentioned something about, you have part-time employees as well? And is that coming out of your budget, that the after-school program?
Those part-time salaries are paid for through the registration fees. So we fund the director through the appropriation, and then the program itself is run with $30,000 worth of expenses for materials. But then those people who register for the classes, those fees help pay for the teachers of those classes.
So the 30,000 of other expenses is the,
There's more the materials
Is the
needed for those
material.
classes, but the teachers
Okay.
are funded through the tuition fees that charge for the
okay.
respective
And
courses.
So the part-time employees, or
You-
part-time other here, that is 24,000, that has nothing to do with.
That's just that's
What
a
is
clerk that's a clerk that assists the director of the after-school education program.
Okay,
So FAT 2 is budgeted in there as a full-time salary, and she has a part-time administrative helper.
okay.
Those are funded with the general fund, but all the teachers that teach the classes are funded through the fees collected for said classes.
Okay.
And that's a revolving fund that's in your budget. If you want to look at, I think Section 7 will show you all the revolving fund expenses and revenues that come in for that program.
Okay. Let me just, you're talking, the 24,000 of part-time other is not the same as the 24,000 of the RCS clerk. Is the RCS clerk what you're talking about in terms of the clerk that helps for two? Is that my understanding, or is there a 24,000?
That may be a Scrivener's error there, Counselor. Good eye. But I believe the numbers are the same, and I think that,
So the
the part-time people, we usually don't list up there because they don't count towards a full-time equivalent. So there may be double counting of that 24,000.
Okay, so the 24, which one would go away? let's put it that way. With the 24 up on top,
Well, the 24 up on top is completely offset, so it's really not, it's not double counted as in double appropriated, but we probably just forgot to hide that line because
okay.
it's fully offset, so you're not gonna double appropriate that, but I will find out if that part-time position is actually funded through the program, but I'm pretty sure that that part-time position is funded through an appropriation, and all the teachers are funded.
Okay, but and I'm sorry, just asking for
I
a
probably should
clearer.
have that line should have just been hidden.
Should that line should have been gone, but the part-time other remains? Is that what I'm
Yes,
understanding?
because we're not counting it up top, because you can see the salary's fully offset,
Yes, and it says
but it's
here-
not fully offset, it's part of the appropriation, so I think we should have just hid that line.
Okay, and so the 24,000 part-time other is what's paying for that?
Is that position only, we should have hid that.
The one down below?
It's the same position twice.
Okay, thank you. I'm
But it's
sorry.
only funded once because the first time it shows as an offset. So
Yeah.
it's not double counted in the appropriation, but it's listed twice in error.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you for that fine.
No, my pleasure. That being said, I think that you've answered all the questions. Is there any other questions from the committee? Hearing and seeing none. Thank you, Claudia, for
Thank
your
you.
presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe Claudia's going to do the human resources as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Human Resources is next with, those pages are page 18 to 22. Okay. Floor's all yours, Claudia.
Good afternoon again. Claudia Correa, representing Human Resources. So you have the numbers in front of you. They're a little bit different from last year. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Sure. Council Silvestri.
Thank you. Good evening, Claudia. Thank you for
Good
coming
evening.
up, and thank you for your presentation. So the human resources, the health benefits administrator,
Correct.
is that the same person that is the community school, or is it just the same last name? Just the same last name?
Same last name, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
I was just trying to see if they, because the talent and culture and human resources, I was wondering if the person was covering two roles. That's all.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions from other committee members? Okay, I guess, let's see, where do I stand? Other sources, health benefits, okay. Looks like help me understand, what's paying the two salaries for the senior generalist and the health benefits administrator?
Those costs are covered by the Health Insurance Trust Fund. We're self-insured. For our health insurance, we have we pay ourselves into a health insurance trust fund. We administer that fund. Although we have third-party administrators through Blue Cross and Harvard Pilgrim, we set our rates based upon assumptions made through our health insurance advisors, and those rates, employee share, employer share, go into the health insurance trust account, and then all expenses are paid out of that health insurance trust account. So that operation is funding one full-time employee to help with that administration, and a portion of the administrative help in the office. So 1.25 positions are paid annually out of the health insurance trust account.
Okay, all right, and if we're looking at the expenses here, I know this was employee recognition. The request from your HR looks to be about $50,000. Last year was budgeted at 10. You currently spent $619 for the up to a year to date on it, and your request, or the department's request, was at $50,000, which is a significant increase from 2023's budget. So I know the CFO cut it down to probably about 35,000, but still a little bit more than what was spent in the past. So can you explain the reasoning for the 50,000?
Sure, yeah. So as you may notice, and you're familiar with the employee recognition and team building, is something that was brought up not long ago. And what we have seen is that when we see that employees are getting motivated, we see that they're performing at a higher level. So it's worth recognizing people that are definitely doing a great job on a monthly basis. That means that we also bring that through that process, we have to provide them with a placard and announcements. So the team building is it's part of the wellness program. So we have put a bunch of events together for the employees, and also we have moved forward with a lot of trainings that offer emotional support for employees and so forth. So some of those are not covered through a lot of our health benefits. So that's how we put these together. In team building, I'm sure many of you may recall last year we did the Employee Wellness Day, and we're looking to do that again perhaps twice this year per employee's request. They saw that was very beneficial, even for employees' departments to come together. If you think about it, we are in one building, and in the past a lot of these departments worked in silos, but as they come together, they notice that their work is very connected, so it only makes sense that they actually do come together, and we do that through events and wellness, such as the wellness events.
Okay. All right. And the outside legal services, what is that exactly, and what is it?
That's our labor council for our contract negotiations.
Okay. And contract with that, is that a contracted amount, or?
It's a contracted, well, it's a contracted amount for fiscal year 23 was a contracted amount. Fiscal year 24 is a reduction to that budget. Again, we didn't fully fund that contract amount because of the transition that may take place. So that's basically our labor attorney that helps us with any grievances, any labor lawsuits, any labor negotiations, et cetera.
Okay. Great. I guess, thank you. I thank you for your explanation and, your presentation, Claudia.
Of course, thank you.
If there's no other questions, thank you.
Thanks.
Next department is our Office of Innovation and Data Management. That is pages 23 to 28. Welcome, Nick. How are you?
Good. Mr. Chairman, committee members. So the budget before you is level funded, and it maintains service from the fiscal year 23 budget. If you look at the salary expenditures first, the main difference is that the Chief of Innovation position was eliminated, and it was reverted back to the Director of Innovation and Data Management. With the elimination of the chief position, there was a reorganization with 301, Office of Innovation, and IT. And with this reorg, we're actually saving $88,000 on our general ledger in the salaries expenditures. As for the department update, 301 is in its 6th year now. So far, we received 37,000 phone calls this year. Of those calls, 90% of them are answered within 45 seconds. So our wait times have been great with our level of staffing. So far, over 6,000 service requests have been opened, and 99% of them are projected to be closed by the end of the fiscal year. This was our first full year that we have our resident service window downstairs. So we have residents coming by daily, and we can offer multiple languages, English, Spanish, Portuguese. So It has been a great addition to make us accessible. In addition to 311, the community liaisons have been an effective resource to create a connection between residents and city government. This is a multicultural and multilingual team that works with departments daily to help spread information to a larger audience of residents. Whether they're guiding the elderly to file for an abatement or simply informing them because they don't know about it. The goal is to maximize interaction and build trust with residents in all aspects of government. To go over the non-payroll expenditures a little bit, I'm joined by my colleague, Randall Mondestin. He's the Director of Innovation and Data Management. So I'm going to pass it in.
Good evening. Any questions I can pretty much answer for you. We're pretty much maintaining our services throughout the board here. Later on, I'll be doing software audits to see how we can consolidate a lot of these softwares in order for us to save a lot more taxpayer money. But right now, it's just more maintaining and actually moving forward. So pretty self-explanatory, so you can ask anything you want.
I'll open it up to the councilors first, if any questions. Council McKenna, we'll start with.
I just want to commend you guys. I think the program's great. I'm always, I mean, once in a while, there's a hiccup, but usually I use it constantly. And
Thank you, Council.
And Ward 1 councilors use them often, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council Cogliandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just took the words out of my mouth. 311's a fantastic service, makes a counselor's job a lot easier. And when are we maybe going to get people on for weekends?
Yeah.
Sorry to address the elephant in the room, but, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is something we're exploring. We're still, with City Hall's extended hours, our department does work till 7 both nights, and we are still open on Fridays. And we do work weekends when, you know, we need to be activated for storms or whatnot, so extending hours is something that we look into.
All right, thank you very much.
No problem.
Council Silvestri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Nick and Randall, you guys do a great job. Just a quick question here. Department salary request, $613,000. Mayor's recommendation, $281,000. How is that?
Let's see.
I can help answer that question. Again, kind of getting a presentation later tonight on the ARPA funds, but many of the employees of the 311 constituent services are funded by the American Rescue Plan Act. So the initial request from the department didn't consider that, and as we went through the budget, we've used those dollars to offset some of the salary costs as part of the final budget presented to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I guess, yeah, that's the concern, that obviously your department, along with quite a few other departments, are up against, is the fact that it's a lot of these positions are opera funded, and you know, there's a funding cliff, obviously, that's going to come to fruition eventually, and you know what the game plan is with that is yet to be determined. And you know, Nick, you guys do a great job over there at 311, and I commend you for you know, it's not easy listening to complaints and all day long, and people asking for those requests, which is needed, but getting a lot of complaints. So you know, the fact that you go through that in a professional manner speaks volumes. Randall, you know, my question, in just to understand it a little bit more and help me understand, sure, the the innovation and data part of it.
Sure.
You know, and what is being collected in terms of data, what is being done, you know, with that information.
Sure.
Is there data being collected? What, you know, I guess like, what are we doing with that information, you know?
So
If there's
yes.
information
Oh, yeah,
being
there's
gathered. Okay.
quite a bit of information.
Okay.
The Office of Innovation and Data Management is pretty much a two-person team. It's me as the director and Yvonne as our data analyst. Yvonne has great skills with data analyst, plus she has GIS skills, which will bring, I would say, innovation into the city. So what kind of data we collect? Everything. Whatever HR wants us to collect, anything that Rich wants us to collect, any type of data that was provided to the city or we can reach, we can assess it. For example, Chairman, if you're looking for something in your ward that needs just say any type of data, we will go into it and pretty much collect it and provide it to you. So, for example, the one data that I can point on the top of my head is COVID back in the days. HR is using our data for EEO purposes, also using our data for telling you exactly how many residents come into the city hall and how many languages that are spoken. We actually built the form for our liaisons and our front desk reception that actually tells us what they are doing with the residents. So this is how HR is receiving these 3,000 front-facing residents and what languages are being used, to the point where I'm working on getting a service window counter, because it's to the point where we get a lot of people at our service window and we want to count how many people visit our service window so we can provide you the proper information. So you name it, we can most likely get it. And one other data point is for water and sewer and DPW. They want to know how many sediment, like how much sediment they cleaned out of the mains. For example, they cleaned out the culvert in behind the old Bianchi's, and we were able to do the math and see how much sediment came out of there.
Okay, and that is, so is it mostly used for, go ahead.
I just want to add that most of the data sets that you see in this budget, all your performance measurements are throughout all the departments are organized and cultivated through data management. So when we do the GFOA budget, one of the things they like to see is performance measures in that data. So any data in here that you get from DPW to water, sewer, to some of the departments, public health and such, a lot of that data is cultivated through the innovation and data management.
Okay.
Thanks, Rich. That's what I was going to get at.
Yeah, okay.
Outside sources, though, in terms of what data is collected, you know, within the community, is it being used as well in the community, or?
I know personally, we try to use a lot of the data making budget decisions on whether
Okay.
we need more employees in DPW for one service or another. You know, we collect the amount of time it takes to fill a pothole, to respond to a tree request.
Yeah.
A lot of the data is driven by DPW and water and sewer, but there's certainly data from Health and Human Services,
Yep.
from financial departments, et cetera. And maybe Randy forgot to mention, but just
Public health.
there's the data management and the innovation. So what we're focusing on now, since there's been a change in the leadership there with the Chief of Innovation and Data Management moving on, is that we are in the process of totally overhauling our financial management systems. And for '24, a key part of the innovation of that department is to really start to use that Munis financial accounting system to automate such things as timesheet preparation, pay stubs, W-2s, 1099s, all that stuff. Once we get up to the latest and greatest version of Munis, when we convert our water and sewer, the next step after that is to really start to embrace the technology of that financial management system. So more so of '24 goal, but certainly something that Randy knows that we are stressing with our IT department and the innovation department.
Okay. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through your 311 team, You know that, I'm a major user of
Yes.
311.
We have data on IRA tickets. It's tops the chart.
Yeah, we
They-
definitely
they
got data on
sing-
IRA.
They sing leader of the pack.
Just
for
want
me.
to say that I'm second.
That means you have to try harder. But, yeah, I don't see, and the problem I have with a lot of the 311s being closed before they're really done, completed. And you have to reopen them.
Right.
What is being done to try and stop that? Because I know, it's not, DPW is my favorite department, and they do a great job. But what I'm finding out is they're closing requests in anticipation of them being done. And honestly, I don't think it should be that way. I think it should be closed when they actually do the work. They're worried about the amount of time that it takes to close something, that they're slow. Listen, we know there's a lot of things going on, but I just have an issue with things being closed before they are completed in anticipation. And I can tell you, just 2 weeks ago, I put in requests for potholes. And, you know that they closed it the day after. And it's still not done.
Right. Yeah,
And
no,
I have an issue with that.
Yeah,
So
I agree
think,
with you.
I think you, as the director and gentleman of 311, should be telling these departments not to close any, leave it open, so it's long and takes time to do. Things take time, other things happen, there are emergencies. But I just think that, they shouldn't be closing a 311 and included in these requests that open, it should say reopened items. And how many of those were reopened? So I think that's something you have to stress with departments, not only DPW, but, inspectional services, whoever, we have to put stuff in that take time to contact constituents and property owners and stuff like that. So that's my thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I can do a better job at having more of an open line of communications with DPW. This isn't an excuse, but rather an explanation that there is a little growing pains with the new DPW work order system. I know you heard that before, but some are being closed by mistake. But, when I see yours closed, I know I'm going to get an email pretty soon. But I agree, we could do a better job at
Yeah,
having
and may I
that.
say that, that on the request on 311, there's a place for history, for remarks.
Right.
They should be utilizing that to let me know, as a constituent and a requester, what's going on with it. Let them put why they closed it, if there was a reason, or if it's going to be a delay in doing it. That's the spot to do it. So I'm just doing a little constructive criticism.
Yeah,
here, so
no, I was going to say,
critiquing.
out of these 6,000 requests, most of them were from you and Joanne, so.
I just wanted to point out one thing, because he said the growing pains. So yeah, we do have a new work order system, is Cartograph. It's quite robust. So what we're doing, we're keeping it simple, stupid. So we're going to kind of bring another software on top of it, and it's going to basically make everything a lot easier with better training. And then we're going to, so all the DPW folks are using their cell phones for their work order system. So IT has a new person named Ollie, and he has GIS background. So we ended up figuring out, we called Colorado, they have the same software, and we found a way to minimize all the burdens that they were having. It will take us some time to get to that point, but it's going to get to that point, and it'll make your service requests much easier and streamlined.
Well, I've kind of heard that for the last 3 months.
Well, now
You know,
I took over position, so I promise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Council Morabito.
Thank you. First, I just want to praise both of you and your department. Taking the brunt of the calls isn't always fun, listening to concerns all the time, but you do your job, because that's what it is, and you try to find a solution for everyone. I have a couple of questions as far as receiving data. So for instance, do most people call, email?
Yeah, so There's a lot of ways you can interact with us. The biggest is obviously the phone calls. We're an inbound call center. If you look at some of these data metrics, it does have other ways that people reach us.
Do you mind, just for the viewers, just to read some of the ways they can contact 311 with some issues?
Yeah, so they can call us. They can go to revere.org/311, and they can enter the request online. They can download the Revere 311 app. They can enter it on there. They can email us. We get thousands of emails from residents, so there's a lot of means to get in touch with us, especially now we got the resident window. Previously, we were up here. Residents couldn't find us, but now, we're front and center when residents come into City Hall. So we're trying to be as accessible as we could be. And, I just want to give a shout out to our call takers who are talking to residents all day. They do a great job, and they love what they do. And I think they deserve some recognition, so.
Thank you. So if I place in 311 call, I email it and say if it's at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
311 will get it first thing in the morning. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so it will be in the system. Depending on the request, it'll be routed to the appropriate department. So essentially when that worker, say it was DPW, it'd be triaged in the morning to the DPW, and then it's in their queue. Or ISD, it's in their queue, it's gonna be the first thing they see when they log in. So.
Because that's something you may want to keep in mind too. If there's a way we can enable the app to have instant communication and have someone on call, it may even prevent you guys from having to open on Saturday. This way, if there's an interactive log and someone's on call, they can work from home.
Right. Yeah.
Well.
It's not an issue, but we could have automation like that. But you would have to have the staff on the receiving end of that. They would need to be working too, So otherwise, we'd be like taking the message essentially.
Yeah, it would just be good because it would be in the system, because a lot of people are off on the weekends, and whether they're taking a walk along Broadway or there's a lot of traffic and they notice things. So,
Yeah.
people say, okay, I'm going to wait until Monday. I'll call them on Monday. And then, you know what? They wake up for work. They bring their kids to school, go to work, come home, take them to the games, and they never follow up with the concern. And I think that a system like that could definitely help us in the long run. If you could do instant communication,
Yeah.
even if it gets held on, at least they're able to get some kind of communication that it was received.
Yeah. No, the good thing is that they can enter it on the weekend. There may not necessarily be action on it until business hours, but we can be accessed 24/7. And as we alluded to with extending hours, it's certainly something we can look into.
Thank you again for all you guys do and your team.
Yep. Thank you.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your latitude. Just going to give you a scenario.
Sure.
Okay? In front of my house is a major water break on Saturday night at 10 o'clock. What does one do?
Yeah, so if you call 311 after hours, it actually goes to the on-call person at DPW. So when there's emergency issues like that, you'll get a live person at DPW.
So does somebody answer the phone when I dial 311?
Yeah. It'd be a staff at DPW who's on call after hours for scenarios like that.
Yeah, there's a prompt you press.
Yeah, so if this is an emergency water break, you need to speak to DPW, press 1, and you'll get whoever's on call.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Great. If there's no other further questions, we can move on. Thank you guys for that presentation.
All right, thank you, everyone.
What we'll do is, we're gonna save the best for last, so we'll skip the auditing department and move on to purchasing, because Mr. Biscay has a presentation for opera money, and we'll do that all at the end. So if we can have the purchasing agent come up. Welcome, Michael.
Good evening, councilors. Happy birthday, Council Silvestri.
That is page 35 to 38.
Try to embarrass him a little extra, Ira. I am Michael Picardi. I'm the purchasing agent for the city of Revere. Our budget is pretty similar to last year. We did ask for a $12,000 increase in our postage this year due to the postage went up 3 cents in January, and it's about to go up again in July 7th, I think. So other than that, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. Any questions from the council or the subcommittee, first subcommittee? Council Silvestri.
Not a question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, you and Arcadia do some amazing work. Not everyone realizes the amount of times that you pull an office through that something needs to get ordered and it needs to be done with a quickness. You get it done for us. So I commend you guys for a two-person office. You guys do some amazing work. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Councilor.
You want to speak? Mr. Visconti?
Well, if there's no any other councils that have any questions, I just want to take the opportunity to thank Michael and Acadia for the great job they do. There's not many two-person offices in City Hall, never mind the amount of work that they do. You got to remember, not only are they doing the day-to-day purchasing for both the city and the school department, all the procurement. We have $30 million worth of ARPA funds that they have to require federal procurement laws. We have a new DPW facility, a new fire station, and hopefully about to build a new high school. So it wouldn't be surprising if this department needs to grow in the future, but I can't stress enough how much work they do for the limited staff they have, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank them.
I couldn't agree more. And not to mention, are we still doing it the old-fashioned way? Have we brought this department up to?
We are, Councilor, yeah.
Where, poor Michael.
It's
poor
coming.
Michael.
It really is.
I mean, does that mean a few years away, or?
No, again, after we do our water and sewer transformation over to the Munis system, and then George is here going to present his budget. He can tell you a little bit more about it, but then we will update to the latest and greatest version of the Munis financial systems. And then after that, really the innovation portion is going to be to really get out of the Stone Ages here with some of the practices we have with the manual, add change forms for personnel decisions, time and attendance, purchase order process, and it's really going to be stress that we want to automate and try to become as efficient as possible. So I know we've been talking about it for years, but I can smell it.
Well, it's good. At least there's an aroma in the building, which is good, because let me tell you, it's it's like pulling teeth. It seems like, trying to get that done, and I commend you for the amount of paperwork that's needed to actually process a purchase order is just crazy at this day and age.
Yes.
So no reason why we can't get there when we're coming into the new days here of technology. So thank you, and your budget is pretty level funded as always. There's nothing really of essence to be concerned here. Postage is out of your control, obviously. So thank you, Michael. I appreciate it, and appreciate all the work you guys do.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving right along, we got the IT department. That is page 40 and 40 to 45.
Sorry. Good evening, Chairman and Councilors. My name is George Pezos. I'm the IT Director for the city. I'm here to present the FY24 IT budget. Just to give a quick recap of what we've done in FY23, we've continued the work, and you've heard some of that discussion tonight, on that financial management migration. So in the past, our financials and our collections were two separate systems. We've been merging those into a single system. So we started with this whole fiscal year, we have been live with real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle collections in Munis. That is the new financial system that we're using. And now on July 10th, we will be going live, and you may have seen some communication coming out of the mayor's office earlier today around that, but on July 10th, we will be going live with water and sewer for both billing and collections as well. So what you're going to see in this budget, and you're going to see some of those offsets and some of those things that I've been talking for the last few years about, we're doing this move, and this move is going to save us money. That's what you're going to see that in this year's budget, okay? The other things that we have done this year, we developed a cybersecurity incident response plan, which is something that the city did not previously have. We did that in conjunction with the Massachusetts Army National Guard cyber team. I can tell you that earlier in the fiscal year, I had gone out and gotten quotes to have this work done. That's about $14,000 to $15,000 to have an outside firm come in and assist you with that. The Massachusetts Army National Guard came in and did that for us for free. We reached out to the state, and they said, yes, they are engaging with municipalities on this kind of work. And we said we will definitely go in on that. And simply just having them here for, we worked with them for a few weeks. They helped us develop that plan. We presented that plan internally. We tested that plan on a tabletop exercise internally. And so now we have a living document plan that we will be updating as staff changes and all of that. We'll be going through that. The other thing that we've done is we made some improvements to our telecommunications. So we made some changes to the service into the building. It's a flat change from a fiscal perspective. There's no change that way. But there is a higher level of service and a higher level of redundancy and resiliency with the new service that we do have. So that is good news. And we're also kicking off a small upgrade to our existing phone system, which is going to allow us to grow and add additional handsets and purchase modern handsets, which is actually an issue that we're currently having. And then as we're always doing infrastructure upgrades, computers, printers, network upgrades, that is a never-ending battle that we fight. All of these accomplishments that I've listed were listed as goals last year when I presented this to you, so this is all really right in line with what we said we were trying to accomplish this year. Our goals for this upcoming year is that finishing that upgrade or that conversion for the water and sewer going into July, and then right after that, we need to upgrade the version of Munis that we're on. So that is going to take the version of 11.3, which is an outdated version from Munis, and we will upgrade that to the latest and greatest version that they have. So that is where you, and so when you ask questions like, why are we still doing POs the old way? Because there are changes the way the system works, with the way workflows are built. There's a lot of work in building that into the system. And if you did it in the old one, you would have to redo that and just that same level of effort to recreate it again in the new one. So we were in a mad dash to get everything moved over into Munis, upgrade the system, and now we can begin to really do some of those things, like improve the PO process, the time and attendance piece. That unleashes us to be able to do those sorts of things. So that's kind of why that has been such a focus for us. We also want to focus on further utilization. So we use Microsoft 365 for email and for productivity. We use it for SharePoint and OneDrive and things like that. We want to begin to leverage that more fully. There are some redundancies in some of the things that we do that we may be able to consolidate down into that 365 environment and sort of realize some savings by eliminating some of those other redundancies. And then I think you heard Randy from OIDM mention, but one of the other things that we want to do is to begin to develop a more comprehensive inventory of our data and software so that we can begin to better manage that. And we need to develop some policies around that. So that's some of the work that we're going to be doing this upcoming year. Otherwise, generally, our budget supports general IT operations, software subscriptions, things like Munis, It's the managed services through Thrive, which provides a lot of our IT services for us, and it also covers our telecommunication costs. If I can give you the 30-second pitch on the budget, what I would point to you, the bottom line is the bottom line, and if you go to the very last page of the budget, if you look at what was adopted in FY23, it was $1,441,110. What is being requested in '24 is $1,376,078. So this budget is $65,000 less than it was last year. The majority of that is because we are going from govern to munis. We were paying for two systems. And I've been saying for the last several years, once we do this, we'll begin to realize savings. And this is it. This is the first year of realizing those savings. So, you know, in a time of pretty extraordinary inflationary pressure, to be able to reduce the budget and maintain a pretty level set of services, I think is a pretty good win. So with that, if you have any specific questions about the budget, I'm happy to answer them.
Council Maravito?
Thank you. You did mention security earlier.
Yes.
With, you know, phishing, malware, nonstop ransomware, just know that if you feel that you need more support and there aren't funds, our computer infrastructure is very, very important because we don't want our payroll system being held hostage. And so please ask this honorable body, whether I'm on it or not, to if you ever need support.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Council Silvestri?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And George, thank you for being here. Again, another short-staffed department, and you guys do some amazing work.
Thank you.
Just bringing up the employees on stuff like he said, phishing and malware and security, and just those little pieces of advice. I know it's saved me a few times from opening up a phishing email, or so I appreciate the work you do, and it's another amazing job done with short staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council Cogliandro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just a question. I'm just curious. How often do you guys upgrade to top-of-the-line PC towers and printers and things like that?
So so it depends on the piece of equipment that you're talking about. For computers, generally, we try to do everything on a 5-year life cycle plan.
Thank you.
Question, is that the savings from the, help me understand, from that computer contract services that has reduced about $100,000? Is that what I'm looking at? Is
Yeah,
that where
I
the
think
savings is coming from?
And do you have page 44 there?
Is this for, I have 42. And I have 44,
Do you
but
have
I'm
40
looking at the line item that has been reduced from fiscal year 2023. It's about $100,000 that the contract service has dropped. Is that where the savings is
That
coming
is,
from?
and I think if you look on page 44, you'll see some of the detail on there. You'll
Yeah,
see.
that's right.
So what you see is the Munis modules went from 230 to 310, which seems like a significant increase. But then the MS Govern goes away at 110, so that's where you're getting that savings.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Other than that, I have no further questions if nobody else does. So thank you, George, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Great. Moving along, the Assessors Department. Welcome, Dana.
Good evening. Our budget's pretty straightforward. Pretty much level funded year over year. We actually is a net reduction of about $4,500. Mostly that comes from our revaluation account. So last year was a full revaluation. This year is an interim year adjustment, so it's a little cheaper. So that's the major change there on the non-payroll expenditures. As far as the payroll, there's a change in position. So we had a retirement of one of our assessors. So we kind of brainstormed and figured out, what's the best way to backfill that position, get the most bang for our buck. So he actually agreed to come back post-retirement, retain on the board, and work part-time. And we wanted to make that position into a clerk's position as well. So we were able to take that old one position and kind of fill it with two, a full-time clerk and then the part-time board position. So again, the net change, is basically zero on that because we took the same salary as the previous years and kind of rolled it into the two for this year. So that would be the one change.
Okay. Council Silvestri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Dana, thank you for being here tonight. The clerk too, with the no service date, no
Yep.
time, that's the position you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about, right, yeah. So previously it was an assessor, data manager, was John Varengia, so he retired. But if you look down, there's a part-time position for $18,000. So he's gonna stay on the board and do some work on our elderly exemptions. He reviews those. But then that position that he previously held would kind of be rolled into that clerk two position.
And has that position been filled yet?
Not yet.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad you guys get some more help in there.
Thank
You guys do some great work
Appreciate
too.
it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Dana.
I won't say the
Any other
age.
questions? Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dana, through you, I know you guys got a tough job. But who does the inspections for the evaluations now? We have an outside contractor for that?
So what we used to do is we had Patriot Properties doing those inspections, and that's a good point. So every 10 years, we're required by Massachusetts general law to attempt to get into every home and inspect them and measure every single home. So we normally would contract that out to Patriot Properties. But a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, when we brought in Matthew McGrath into the office, and that's his specialty, is doing that field work. So he's actually going to do that program for us this year. So we're going to do it in-house, which will save the city, $400,000 plus. But so that's also where that clerk comes in helpful, because it allows him to get on the road more, because he kind of splits up his time, office time in field work. So with that additional clerk, it'll free him up and allow him to get out in the field more often, because that program of collecting, over 15,000 parcels, it takes 4 or 5 years to get through the whole city to do that. So Matthew's doing that, to answer your
Patriots
question.
out.
For that portion, they're out.
What portion are they still in?
Well, they still do the statistical analysis of the revaluations, but they're not doing the house visits for
House
us.
visits?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Council Silvestri.
Thank you for the leeway, Mr. Chairman. Dana, you just brought up a good point and reminded me of something. The house assessments happen how often?
So they're every year now, actually. So we do interim year adjustments. So we do market adjustments every single year. And then every 5 years is a much more in-depth revaluation.
Now, is there a way to notify the homeowner before you come out? I had a few veterans call when you guys were going to do the assessment, and they weren't sure that it was a real person.
Of course,
and they did. It checked out. Matt had his badge and all that,
Right,
so
he has a
it
badge,
works. But
he has a letter,
is there a way
he
to
has all
possibly
that stuff.
inform the home before you come to them? Is it maybe a reverse 311 or a letter sent or something?
Yeah, I mean, we could look into the reverse 311. We've tried the letters in the past, and it really didn't help us. It is kind of catches some people off guard that he just shows up to the house and says, hey, I'm here, but he does have, all the proper identification. But I can certainly speak with Nick and see if, a reverse 311 call, if we could set something like that up. We have messages on the websites and things like that. We notify the police so they know we're out there. But we're definitely going to be ramping that up now that the nicer weather's here, so it's definitely a good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My apologies for being
No
late.
worries.
Dana, you know how high I hold you in high regard, and the city is lucky to have you. But I just want to say that I'm very excited about these changes. I think they're terrific. And I like my colleague's suggestion. I think we really need to, because people show up at your house. It's just not a good thing.
Especially in this day and age, yeah,
I think we really need to do whatever we have to do to make sure they know ahead of time that somebody's coming. But I love the part-time position. I love the clerk. But even more important, I love that we're going to be doing the assessments in-house.
Right,
It's
yeah.
just, that's a milestone.
It's going to be a lot better quality, because.
Absolutely.
We know the city obviously very well. Matt knows
Yeah.
it very well.
Perfect.
And we're just going to, we feel that we'll get a more quality product by trying to do it
I couldn't be
in-house.
happier with the changes. So
Thank you.
thanks for the hard work, and keep it up, and give everybody my regards down there, because I know everybody in that office works hard. That's one
Absolutely.
office I can say without any question. Everybody in there is working. There's no freeloaders in there.
Thank you.
Not that I'm saying there's freeloaders anywhere, but
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Morabito.
Thanks. I don't know if this is a Dana question or Mr. Biscay question, but when we receive our bills, we get a elderly and disabled taxation fund envelope and a veterans checkoff. How much have citizens given back?
Sure. So every year, there's actually a committee. Myself, the treasurer, is on it. So we meet once a year. We review all those applications, and we reward individuals that we deem, meet the criteria for those applications. I would say typically rewards run anywhere from $250 to $500, and we probably give out maybe 10 of each. So there's an elderly one, there's a disabled one, and there's a water sewer one. So there's 3 different categories.
This is $250 to $500.
Per applicant, And it's based, obviously, that fund only has, a certain amount of money. So.
No, I'm saying
Point
like
of
total.
information.
So how much is donated, given back?
Oh, how much is donated?
Yeah.
That would be maybe a rich
Yeah.
question. I
Just
don't have
curious
that
as
number.
far as for the taxation fund.
I just give out the money, I don't take it.
I won't be able to rattle that off the top of my head.
Point
but
of
I can certainly
information.
Bring it back to you tomorrow.
I can tell you that the veterans have received $12,000 over the last 3 years since we've started it.
Rich, you trying to find that, or?
Oh, no, I said, I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can certainly provide you that information tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll just have to check on the accounting system and get those.
Your
numbers.
tomorrow, my tomorrow?
Everyone's tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, as long as you get back to me. That'll
Sure.
be great.
All right, thank you. Dana, one question I have that has always been a concern, or the revaluation of these large commercial buildings. I know they have been in the works, correct me if I'm wrong. I think last year when I was talking to the previous mayor, I think that was on his agenda to try to get these reevaluated, and I'm not sure if you were.
Yeah, I mean, they're part of the revaluation program every single year. Like last year, we took a special eye towards the large-scale apartments and the commercial industrial properties. We actually engaged a third-party contractor to come in, a consultant, kind of overlooked everything in the commercial industrial large-scale apartment, reviewed everything from soup to nuts, dove into all of our numbers, and advised us on that. And we probably would bring him in again this year as well. In addition to that, we obtained several appraisals of some of these specialty commercial properties that are a little harder to value. And we'll continue to do that as well. That's what that $30,000 is for. And then also, I think last week or the week before, we took $75,000 out of the overlay surplus that the council granted, so we'll use that to do more of the same.
Okay, great, thank you, appreciate it. If there are no further questions, thank you, Dana, for the work and your department does for the city. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, moving along, I think is the treasurer's, I think for the, Rich, I think, Mr. Biscay, I think you're up for the rest of the night.
All right, so we can do the presentation first, or we can do treasurer first and then do auditing, whatever you please.
Well, whatever you want to do. So if you want to go with the treasurer's department, let's go through that since that's next, and then we'll leave yours and, you know, the remaining fixed expenses for later than that. So treasurer's would be the next, the collector. That's page 51 on. Thank you.
Excellent. Good evening, everybody. On behalf of Kathy Bowden, the treasurer collector of the city, I'm Rich Viscay, I'm the CFO. Treasurer collector falls under my umbrella of oversight. Kathy couldn't be here tonight, unfortunately, but I told her I'm happy to present this budget, and I think most of you are very aware of Kathy, been here 30-plus years and does a tremendous job handling the treasury and the collector, as well as payroll is run also through the treasury collector. So just a quick overview of the accomplishments. We were able to maintain our bond rating at a AA with a positive outlook, and that is something that we're pretty proud of here, that gives us the ability to borrow money at just about the cheapest amount possible without being a AAA community. Not sure if we'll ever be able to become a AAA community because there's some income thresholds that we may never meet, but I believe our financial policies, procedures, our savings, and our operations are such that we are able to maintain that AA with a positive outlook, so that's great. One of the other accomplishments we did last year is we implemented a lockbox system. We used to process every single payment in-house. We've contracted with a third-party lockbox system so that when you mail your tax bill, your water sewer bill, your excise bill, it is processed. It comes to a P.O. box in the city of Revere, and we send it to our third-party bank that then scans those checks with the remittance, and we get a file every morning that we can upload into our financial software, which allowed us to eliminate one full-time position in that department last year. Again, we're upgrading our collection system, our tax title, our cashiering, and the utility billing, all of which is pretty much run through our treasurer collector. So they certainly do a tremendous amount of work besides the general day-to-day services we provide for not only taxpayers who come in and pay their utility bills or their excise or what have you, but all the departments within the city also turn over money to us daily in the Treasury office. So not only are we getting outside constituents, but we also have our library, our school cafeteria workers, everybody who collects money, it all flushes through the Treasury collector system office. We have been tremendously successful investing some of our money in the higher rates that are being offered out there to the tune of, we would typically getting $100,000, $200,000 a year in investment income. I believe we may top $2 million in investment income this year, which is due to the great work and some of the marketing that Kathy does, trying to find us the best rates on our money at hand. So, so with regard to that, we are presenting pretty much a level-funded budget in the Treasurer Collector's Office for fiscal year 2024. For the expenses that are non-salary, we have printing and mailing, obviously, to mail the bills accordingly. Contract services, like I said, we have a lockbox service. We have armored car service that comes in and picks up some of our cash. We have equipment leases for our copiers and printers, et cetera. One of the larger budget items there is our banking services. We have, you know, probably about 25 different accounts that we have throughout the city. Those are, You know, we don't get free checking like the average person. The volume of work we do, we are charged per transfer. We've maintained that at a level funded for fiscal year 2024. With regard to staffing, we are level funded in staffing. We have not increased any positions. All raises are contractual in nature. And we have maintained the same amount of positions that we did from last year to this year. We do have one clerk position that is vacant right now. So although we have 12 full-time positions in the collector treasurer's office, we are working with 11 right now while we wait to hire a new entry-level clerk at some point in time. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions on the treasurer collector budget.
Any questions for Mr. Viscaи? Counselor Novoselsky?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the listings of abandoned and unclaimed properties, you know, I noticed it was in the paper. What kind of property checks are unclaimed, you know, that people wouldn't get?
We basically, the cities and towns in the Commonwealth can do two things with unclaimed checks. So that's basically any check we mail to a vendor, to an employee, anyone we've ever paid in the city. If that check doesn't clear within 6 months, I believe, the check goes void. But after several years, we are required to try to find out where those people are and get them their money. So there's two things you can do. You can turn it over to the Commonwealth, and that will go part of their fine mass money. You might see those advertisements in the paper, but we are also allowed to do that process ourselves, and there's steps that you have to take. One of them is advertising all the people that may have checks outstanding, and what we've done is we had a backlog to the extent where the auditor said, hey, you gotta clean this up. You have too many uncashed checks over several years, so we made a point to make sure we advertise those, try to get the people their money, and once we do all the processes, if that money still goes unclaimed, we're able to bring it back into the general fund as miscellaneous non-recurring revenue.
Does that include checks that were returned to us?
Any check
bad
any
address?
check that never cleared that we've mailed out. So we do a weekly warrant for payroll. We do a weekly warrant for accounts payable. You know, those hundreds of thousands of checks that go out every so often. One may get lost in the mail. Maybe someone forgets to cash a check. They have it in their back pocket from a summer job, et cetera. So we do hundreds of thousands of checks a year. So most people cash them, but there are some that slip through the cracks, and that was our way of trying to clear up that backlog and try to get rid of some of the old
How much are we talking?
tailings.
Off
the top of my head, I couldn't tell you how much totally we had, but like I said, a lot of them, we got quick responses right away on some people. I mean, we knew some of the people the names and some of the businesses, so we had, reissued those checks and got them off of our tailings. We call it tailings. So anything that is left over after we do all that work, we're legally allowed to then kind of bring that back into the general fund.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just one question, Rich. There's a $15,000 computer operations that was asked for last year. No funds used throughout the year to date. What exactly?
Yeah, every so often we have to contact either Munis or like Govern Harris, and sometimes we'll need a specialized reporter. We're trying to extract data.
Okay.
A lot of this software is canned software, so every once in a while, if we need a special report, we want to try to modernize the system to do something that's unique to the city of Revere, they'll come in, and no one does anything for free these days. So this year in particular, we've had this conversion. I'll be honest, Govern and the older system was really, they really held you over a barrel every time you needed something. Munis is a lot more robust and used a lot more nationwide, so they typically have the features and functions that we need. So I wouldn't like to see that cut this year, but maybe as we get fully integrated, that may be a budget item that can't come down in the future.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other questions, we can move on to.
I can run through the fixed costs if you want.
You want to do the fixed costs first?
Because I think they're all
Yeah.
out of the treasury, so
That's
I'm
fine.
certainly happy to do that.
Yeah. The fixed cost, that section,
I think debt service is the first one you have listed there.
That's section 6, page 1 to 22, I think,
Yeah,
if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, there's actually, in section 2, we have the summary, but we
Oh.
do have we have a more robust section that really breaks down each and every bond and the issuance and the expiration dates, et cetera, but
What's easier to follow?
easier to go to section 2, I would say.
Section 2,
Section 2, and I believe, dash 221.
section 2, page 21?
221.
Oh, 221, okay. Okay.
So, yeah, for debt service, that's where we pay all of the debt for the city and the school department, anything that is not water and sewer related. So these are fixed costs, so we're obligated to pay. You'll see that that budget went up somewhat significantly, and that's due to the fact that we're realizing the debt service now for the DPW building, and we're also realizing the debt service for the purchase of Wonderland, but I'll leave that where it is. We did buy it. We do have debt service that comes with that, and that's all included in this budget. We do have some offsets in there. We spoke a little bit about this yesterday with Councilor Zambuto, but the lease car rent subsidy was through the roof. We had over $700,000. We used $680,000 to offset our debt service because we do need to use that money strictly for the principal and interest on the construction of the police department, so we can't draw more from that, but that was a huge help in balancing the budget this year. And we also have some offsets for the water and sewer enterprise fund. The cost of the building at DPW, those debt service will be borne half by the general fund and half by the water and sewer department, so you'll see those offsets in there, and that kind of falls through for the principal and the interest part. So those are those credits that are on the main number for bonded debt. So when you take all those credits out from the actual debt service, that brings us to $9.1 million for fiscal year 2024.
Any questions regarding the debt? Okay. We can continue.
So for retirement, this one's pretty straightforward. I think you can go to page 227, section 2. It's one line. It's the assessment that we receive from our retirement board. I serve as the chairman on that board. We have we're run by a 5-person board, 3 of which are elected. One is the CFO auditor as ex officio chairman, and there is a 5th member that is picked by the mayor. That board directs the funding and the ability to pay all our retirees their pensions, as well as secure the funds for all of us who actually contribute to this, and will eventually get a pension, some sooner than others. But we have an assessment every year from PERAC, who does our actuarial study. We are on pace right now to have a fully funded pension system by the year 2034. Our fiscal year 2024 appropriation is there before you, that $15,874,306. You'll see the difference of $184,165. And that reduction from the department request to the mayor's recommended is just the dollars that we realize from those grant and other funding source employees that we're able to take 9% of the salary and apply it to the retirement assessment, because that's the Department of Revenue's threshold on what we could recover from salaried people to make sure that they're paying their share of the pension. So pretty straightforward, but happy to answer any questions on that.
Councilor Novoselsky.
So all employees pay 9% of their salary for retirement, is that correct?
No, all the employees pay typically up to 11%, really 9%, and then an extra 2 on the 30,000. There are some people who've been here in prior years, but it started at 8, and then I went to 9, then I went to 9 plus 2%, then I went to 11.
Are there any 5%ers left?
I don't believe so, no. There's a couple of us, I think 7% is very few, but grant employees, they contribute their own money they're contributing to the pension system just through the withholdings, but the city bears some part of that annuity as well. So it's not like a 401K that every dollar we put in, we get back. We're a defined benefit plan, so some of that liability is borne by the city as part of the benefits. And those grant employees that are hired, that are not part of the general appropriation, we take 9% of their salary so that we make up their portion. We've done, over the last 4 years, we've done a lot of work trying to get every non-general fund employee to pay their share of all their fringe benefits, including health insurance and pension assessments.
Thank you.
No further question regarding the retirement and pension? Okay. We can continue.
All right, so health insurance is, let me see here, and page 223, I believe will take care of the next three: health insurance, the FICA tax, and property and casualty insurance. Those are all lumped into Section 900, employee benefits and property casualty insurance. We have a increase of 6% on our health insurance rates for fiscal year 2024. So we have outside consultants that come in. We take the counts of all the people, whether individual plans, family plans, whether they're in a PPO, HMO. If they're retired, they're typically getting the MedX plans, and all those numbers are run and forecasted out during like the middle of fiscal year 23 to come up with our 2024 rates. We were able to hold that line at 0% in fiscal year 2023. We are not able to hold that line in fiscal year 2024, and we've come up with a 6% increase across the board for our health insurance, and that is reflected in that $25.3 million assessment there. Medicare tax is simply that 1.45%. City's required to contribute 1.45%, and the employee contributes 1.45%. That number is going up $100,000 just due to the contracts that are signed and the pay increases across the board. That includes both the city and the school employees. Insurance premiums, that's going up $100,000. Again, we added cybersecurity last year, which bumped us up, but we had a very successful procurement of our insurance that was able to absorb that cyber insurance without raising the rates last year. But now we're seeing a lot of our buildings are increasing in value. And of course, with that increase in value comes increase in premium. So the $100,000 will cover those increases for fiscal year 2024. We will have to eventually bring our DPW building onto our insurance plan, and I'm not sure what that total number is going to be, but during construction, the construction companies pay for builder's risk insurance as it's being built. But once they turn those keys over to the city, we're required to insure that building. So these are, we call them fixed costs because they're just that. We really don't want to go without insurance, and we've got to pay for the health insurance and the Medicare tax. So pretty straightforward calculations there, but happy to answer any questions on that.
No questions? Okay. Moving right along.
You want me to do the auditor's budget, and then we'll do the PowerPoint at the end?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do
Okay.
the auditor's budget first.
So let me know when everyone's at page 29. I will
That's
go right
section
ahead.
2.
Section 2, page 29, I believe, yes.
Go ahead.
All set?
Yeah.
All right, so just briefly, I'll buzz through some of the accomplishments we had in fiscal year 2023. We were awarded the GFOA's Distinguished Budget Award for our 2023 budget that was adopted by this council. We have received that award for the 9th consecutive year, and I'd like to thank my staff for all the hard work they do. We will see in this budget that we are proposing to have one less staff member in our office, and I'll explain a little bit about that. But we've also, we use the GFOA as the Government Finance Officers Association for both our our budget and our financial statements, and they present awards for each if you meet their criteria. We did receive the Certificate of Achievement of Excellent Financial Reporting for our audit that was done in fiscal year '22. Well, as a matter of fact, the auditors are here starting the fiscal year '23 audit. They'll come back in the fall when the books are closed, but we typically follow the guidelines of the GFOA, which is a nationwide organization that does a lot of education and continuing training for auditors, accountants, finance people in the nation here. So we follow them, and we've been pretty good about achieving those awards. So again, thank my staff for that help they give me with that. We have processed over the last several years not only $30 million of the ARPA funds, which we'll do a presentation on, but we've got CARES money, FEMA money, et cetera, to the tune of over $10 million. So on top of the day-to-day operations that we do with regard to paying all the bills, reviewing every invoice, ensuring that the budget is in check, we are managing $40 million of federal money that requires some extra belts and suspenders. We were lucky enough to bring on Miguel Ornao, who's he's our internal auditor. He is a CPA by nature, and he is the rock star on all of these federal and ARPA funds, and put this presentation together that I'll present shortly on that. But we just continue to upgrade our software and try to get more efficient in our operations. As you heard, we've been able to eliminate a position in the treasurer collector due to this. We're going to eliminate a position in the auditors department with these innovations, and like George said, we were able to save some money in the IT department. So some of these software upgrades are really paying dividends for us now, and we hope to continue that trend when we do the final conversion of our software. So, basically we just try to do a good job, make sure all our money's being spent the right way, keep us off the front page of the papers, and run business as usual. So I'll hit the numbers portion of our budget. Our budget is more or less level funded in the non-salary portions. I believe we have $136,200 in our expenses. Most of that money goes to our auditing and accountant services. We have to get our audit done every year. We have to do our actuarial studies for our pension obligations. We have the GASB with the other post-employment benefits. Those types of studies are all handled through contract services there. We have our printing and mailing. Mostly our printing is before you today, the binders and the papers needed to produce the budgets. We do have some contract services for our, but we have some budgeting software we use in ClearGov, which is some software that we're trying to implement to turn face forward here to present. At some point, we like to present these budgets digitally as opposed to in paper, so that is something that we've been chipping away at. And office supplies are pretty level funded at $10,000. As far as our salaries go, while we did eliminate one position, we have an accounts payable clerk that we've eliminated. We are trying to decentralize the invoice entry process. We started that process with the schools, and we're going to start doing that with city departments. And what that means is mostly all departments would take a bill, review it, stamp it, and hand fill out the account numbers and everything so that we can take it into our office and data enter it into our software. What we're trying to do is get the departments to enter those invoices straight into the Munis system so that when they come to our office, we're just auditing those bills and making sure that they comply with the right account numbers, et cetera. So it's a very laborious task to enter every bill in the city, schools and city. So the schools were the beta site, and it's going pretty well. You can ask them about it when they come before you, but they are entering all their bills, and we're reviewing their batches that as they come in. We're going to start doing that within city departments, and that process is going to allow us to eliminate one clerk. And one of the more important reasons why we're doing that is because we had our internal auditor and our CPA being paid out of the ARPA funds, probably the most important position we fund, I would say, with those ARPA funds, and we have weaned them off of those funds and incorporated them into our general appropriation budget. So, like I said, one less employee, but a little more dollars because of his salary is a little more than a clerk, but Otherwise, all the positions are funded at the contracted rates. So happy to answer any questions on that.
Subcommittee members first, any questions? No? None over here? Okay, great. Rich, it looks like we're all good. Thank you.
Thank
for
you,
that.
Council.
Thank you for presenting
And,
this budget, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there's been a lot of people asking about the status of the American Rescue Plan Act funds, so I will direct you to the PowerPoint that I had passed out, and that Ashley is so kind to turn the pages for the public audience. So let me know when you're ready, and I'll run right through it. I'll try to be quick for one of my councilors' birthdays. We'll try to get them out of here early. So, is everybody ready? All right. First slide, Ashley. Thank you. So, the American Rescue Plan Act was signed into law by President Biden on March 11, 2021. This provided funding for municipalities to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we call it ARPA funds, but the technical acronym that we use is Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. The city was fortunate enough to receive $30 million from that fund, and those funds must be encumbered by December of 2024, and those encumbrances must be liquidated by 2026. In layman terms, what that means is that we have to have the dollars committed and secured with contracts by the end of calendar year 2024, but those contracts may take time to finish and complete. So once you have the contracts in place by December 2024, you have to exhaust those funds by December 2026. As it stands right now, we have committed the entire $30 million according to the following slides. So when I say committed those dollars, I mean that the former Mayor Arrigo had a plan on how to spend these dollars. This slideshow is going to show you how that plan looks, and we are aware that there may be some changes in this plan when there's a new mayor-elect. However, we are just forging ahead as planned, as I will show you in these slides, and again, happy to take any questions on the particulars of that. Next slide, please. So we put a little pie chart together for you just to give you an idea of what we've budgeted per the category of funds. So we have $3.9 million, or 13%, going towards the COVID public health emergency. We have 39% of these funds going towards water and sewer infrastructure at $11.5 million. We have 15%, or $4.5 million, going towards public sector workforce. 26%, or $7.9 million, going towards household assistance. We have 4%, or $1.3 million, going towards small business and nonprofit assistance. And we have 3%, or close to $1 million, dedicated to travel and tourism. As of today, of the $30 million, we've expended $9.7 million. So that money's out the door and spent. Encumbered is $10.9 million. Encumbered means whatever we have purchase orders pulled for within these respective categories. And the committed dollars of $9.4 million are just that. They're committed to these categories, yet the money hasn't been officially encumbered and put out the door. So the $30 million, when we say it's all been accounted for, it means we have a spending plan for $30 million. Next slide. So I'll just go over the numbers. Behind each one of these slides with the numbers is a brief explanation of what each of these requests are and what department they are allocated to. But the first one, so under the public health emergency, $3.9 million, $2.1 million of that was allocated to fund the opening of the Haas Health and Wellness Center. We have expended $750,000 of that $2.1 million. We have encumbered the balance of that $1.4 million, and there's technically no dollars left. So we've, in your budget, you do have a pro forma staffing sheet for that center, and we are paying such things as the lease of the building. We're getting new gym equipment, we're getting new flooring in there, new lockers, we're painting the entire place. We are required to pay our portion amount of property taxes and insurance. It's a triple net lease. Any other kind of incidentals in there, all accounted for in that 2.1 million. Our COVID testing and outreach during the pandemic was $766,000 budgeted. We've spent $715,000 of that, and $51,000 remains. We did some IT capital expenditures, which, if you're wondering why that is public health emergency, it's for the ability for our staff to work remotely if and when we have another run-in with COVID. But that IT is part of the $3.9 million at $350,000. We have COVID memorial at $50,000. We gave a vaccine incentive back when the pandemic was running wild at $442,000. Emergency warming center that we funded over this past winter was $123,000. And we did an analysis on the homeless population in the city, which was $25,000. Those last three have been completed, and those initiatives are closed. And I'll stop and ask you any questions, or I can just buzz right through it, however you like.
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rich, how long did the city take out the lease for the Haas?
3 years.
3 years. Okay, so what happens if we do all this work and spend all this money on the building and the owner decides that he doesn't want to extend the lease?
The owner is more than willing to keep us there as long as we wish.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from any other councils? Council Cogliandro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up on that, do we have first right of refusal as well?
I don't have the exact lease document in front of me, but I've spoken to him firsthand, and he's actually very happy that this is what's going in that building. He's looking towards this open successfully. So he's if you ask Mr. Caruso about it, he's all in on this, and so I think that's the least of our problems is with regard to the Haas Health and Wellness Center.
Thank you.
Any questions from anybody else? All right, Rich, the 1 point, go ahead, Councilor.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to go a little further on this center there. Is there going to be revenue coming in from this?
Yeah, absolutely. There, as a matter of fact, any revenue that we realize when we use these ARPA funds has to go back into the ARPA fund to be repurposed. So any revenues that are generated with the use of these dollars have to go right back into the particular fund. So the whole idea about opening this Haas Health and Wellness Center is to use this capital, this one-time capital, to open it up, and then the memberships and the activities within that center should hopefully perpetuate that place being open for a long time.
Yeah, because I'm hoping that, the taxpayers aren't going to fund this thing. That's my...
I mean, we're hoping as well. I wish I had a crystal ball. I mean, we're going into this thinking that we hope this to be a fully self-supported operation, just like the water and sewer department. I couldn't guarantee that it would be or wouldn't be, but I do know this, that we've been working with our health insurance providers through our self-insurance trust, and this facility will be eligible for reimbursement for, like it would be for Planet Fitness or what have you. So we're hoping that we'll get a lot of the city members to use this facility to keep them healthy. And quite frankly, we're hoping that people use it and stay healthy, because since we are self-insured for health insurance, the healthier our population is, and we'll have less costs in our health insurance trust.
Yeah, I'm just worried about the double-edged sword of these ARPA funds.
We're all worried, Council, but we're doing our best. And
I know you are.
Quite frankly, if it is not fully self-supported, and it's something that the general fund has to support, and if it's a benefit to the community, then I think that would be a good thing. I mean, that's my opinion. Again, the next mayor could decide on.
Well, that's a discussion. That's a discussion for later. But let's hope we don't have to have it in that type of a discussion.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, let's hope it's funding itself.
We hope so.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Counselor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you to Rich. Rich, regarding the homelessness analysis, what did that show?
You know, I think that's a better question for Lauren Buck when she comes in here to present her budget, because that was under her wheelhouse. Even though I know where all these dollars were spent, I couldn't give you a great dissertation on every single one of them. But I would ask you to defer that question for Lauren Buck when she's here.
Thank you.
One question I have regarding the Health and Wellness Center, we have, it looks as though we have encumbered the rest of the 1.4 million of the 2.1 in total. Is that going to be enough to open the center?
Yeah, well, I mean, we believe that that's going to be enough not only to open the center, but to pay some staffing as we get our feet under us and try to generate some memberships and generate some revenue there.
So help me understand when you say we're generating the revenue and it's going to go back into the opera, is it going back into this particular fund that is funding the health and wellness?
Yes.
Or just the opera, the general opera fund?
Well, no, just for this particular purpose. So we have to regenerate those dollars. Eventually, when we spend that $2.1 million, we'll be able to keep those dollars to run the facility in the future. Now, I don't know where that point will be, but while we're using these dollars to pay for services and leases and such,
Yes.
the dollars generated have to go back in this, and it will perpetuate itself. So we hope it's a steady rise in membership and revenues that will then allow us to have a self-funded health and wellness center.
Okay, great. All right, continue. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so if you skip 2 slides, Ashley, I'm going to go past the narratives and I'll just go to those dollars. All right, so the second category in the pie chart was water and sewer infrastructure. To that, we have budgeted $5.1 million through water main system replacements in the city. I wish I had the tuberculated pipe to show everybody. I'll save that for Donnie.
No.
But we have that. We've allocated $3 million of the water and sewer infrastructure money to stabilize water and sewer rates for the last last fiscal year, this fiscal year, and next fiscal year. We have what we're calling an Opera Flex Reserve, which is essentially a reserve that we have right now just to ensure, like any other project that's $30 million, we want to make sure that we have a little bit of a contingency here if things run over or under. So we have $2 million put aside for a reserve account. We have Sergeant Street stormwater drainage improvements that were funded at $500,000. We have a Point of Pine stormwater electrical modifications that were funded at $250,000, and hydrant replacements throughout the city at $250,000. So again, $11.5 million budgeted. We've expended our encumbered about $5.9 million of that, and $5.6 million is committed. Most of that money is for future water main replacements now that I believe are out to bid, and Donnie and his crew are getting ready to do that work this year and next year. So happy to answer any questions on water and sewer infrastructure.
So the committed, committed is not encumbered?
Well,
so
committed
this-
means that we said we're going to spend $5.1 million on the water mains. We've only expended $203,000, but a lot of this work had to be designed, put out to bid, and then constructed. So we've got $1.8 million encumbered now for one particular contract, and going forward, we got $3.1 million for water main improvements throughout
Okay.
the city. And I think Donnie has said that 1 mile of a water main is approximately $3 million of expenses. So it looks like a lot of money, but if we get two miles of water mains out of this, I think it's a success. I kind of lean towards the infrastructure expenditures personally, but it's not always about me, Ira.
Understandable.
Any other questions?
No, all good.
All right. So next slide, Ashley, we maybe skip the next one and then yes, thank you. All right, so public sector workforce, $4.5 million. We've been talking about this a lot over the past 2 days, but This is simply the salaries and wages, and fringe benefits for anybody who's paid with these funds. So there's two categories that they allow us to use this payroll sector workforce for. It's for direct administrative costs to the COVID-19 pandemic. And examples of that, we're running the food hub and paying for police details during COVID testing sites, et cetera. So a lot of that money in the beginning was used toward that initiative. The second initiative is that all municipalities were able to grow their employee headcount by 7.5%. So for the city of Revere, that would mean that we could essentially fund up to 40 employees if we needed to. The employees that we funded with these dollars, either in the past or for this current year, are listed in the left-hand column of that, and that's your COVID ambassadors, that's your outreach liaisons, that's your food hub coordinators, your 311 call takers. We had some people in planning community development, language access, travel and tourism, et cetera. So 4.5 million of those dollars, I know Council Visconti's been looking at this closely. We've expended $2.9 million in fiscal years 23 and prior, 1.2 million encumbered for fiscal year 2024, and that would leave us with about 429,000 to kind of run that out. So as you see that some of the employees we're slowly trying to get into the general fund appropriations, we have a little more capacity maybe next year to bring some more in, and we can slowly wean ourselves off that, and that the decision on which employees would stay and which programs may be phased out, that'll remain to be determined in calendar year 2024. Any questions on any of that?
No.
All right. Next slide, Ashley, is household assistance. All right, so household assistance, $7.9 million. One big purchase with the household assistance money is 3 new fire trucks for the city. So we have procured and we pulled purchase orders on 1 new ladder truck and 2 new pumper trucks, mostly to staff, to put into our new fire stations that's being constructed. So definitely a great use of that money that will benefit the community for a long time. So those trucks, unfortunately, are going to take a couple of years to build, so you may not see them until 2025, 2026, but we have, we got in under the wire before they raised the prices, I believe 6%, so we have secured those purchase orders, and those trucks are hopefully getting ready to be produced. We have riverfront capital expenses of $2.1 million, and that's to complement a lot of the work that's going on down near the boatyard and the infrastructure around the flooding, et cetera. We have sidewalk reconstruction done through the engineering department of nearly $1 million. That's all been encumbered. I believe Mike Kessman is in the process of getting that work done this summer. We did fund some money for Revere Community Schools. They had a tough couple of years with the COVID, so we infused them with some money so they can run their programming over the last couple of years. We are buying a bookmobile for the library. That $125,000 is going to be matched with the $100,000 that was appropriated last year, and we're going to have a great bookmobile that can be brought throughout the city and have access to library services. We had a food hub that we were running off of Winthrop Ave, $92,000. We had housing resource support and case management at $90,000, housing production plan at $40,000, and we did distribute $250 per household in the city. That came in at $1.3 million. So $7.9 million budgeted for that. We've expended or encumbered about $5.6 million, with $2.3 million remaining. The lion's share of that is the riverfront capital projects that are just about underway. Any questions on any of those?
Sorry.
Richie, regarding the bookmobile and the library, has there ever been any talk about expanding the size of the library?
I mean, I think there's been talk about it. I think it would be great. I think part of funding this bookmobile is a way to expand the library services without actually the physical construction of that building. I know there's a lot of historic value in that Carnegie building and some of the things there. I do know that Diana has spent a lot of time upgrading the inside of that with the help of Donnie Charamella. So we're doing the best with what we have there, but right now, there's nothing that I have in the 5-year capital plan that contemplates any kind of expansion of that yet, but hopefully this bookmobile will give us some additional services and outreach throughout the community.
Because I know maybe about 10 years ago, there was a look-see about funding and expanded the back of the building. And it was matching funds, and at that time, we didn't have the funding that we have now.
Yeah, I mean, it may be a better question for Diana when she comes in on her budget, and I don't know if the trustees will show up, but if they've had discussions internally, it hasn't materialized into something that I can bring forward in the
Yeah,
capital plan.
I know they do their best they can with what they have, but I know.
Yeah, absolutely. They're doing a great job down
You're always
there.
asking for more space and be able to handle more things going on in the library, so.
Yeah, I think it would be great to expand the library, but like I said, it's not part of any capital plan as of today.
Okay, thank you.
Council Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know how we would expand that footprint over there anyway. I'm not sure I'm not sure there's any room to expand that library. It would be great to have a bigger library, but that, I think we're locked into that.
You know, the original thought when we were talking about is to building over the parking lot, starting on the second floor and expanding out and talking to the church about utilizing it,
I
not
see.
losing, not
Okay.
losing any parking spaces
I
and
get
build
it.
over it.
I get it, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that information. The food hub, is this over with now, or what's the story there?
The food hub has been stopped as a city-run service, and I believe it's been moved to the First Congregational Church on School Street.
So, but there was something called free food or something. What was that? After it was closed and we were told that it was going back to the church, they were still giving out food at the food hub. But I got that from the neighbors, so,
Yeah,
that's my,
again,
not that I, listen, not that I certainly want to help anybody who's in need of food. That's not where this is coming from. This is coming from the neighbors who couldn't get out of their driveways, and I've been listening to it for a long time. So in no way do I want to stop helping people in need. But I do also want to help my constituents get out of their driveways, and I almost swore.
Yeah, I would actually defer those questions to Lauren Buck as well, because she had, her department is spearheaded. Like I said, I can tell you about the dollars and the.
All right, that's good.
But I
that's
can't tell you
fine.
about the.
That's
the
fine. I
story
thought you
details.
might have had some inside
Sorry, Council.
Point of information, they completely closed the beginning of May. There's no food coming out of there anymore.
Thank you for that.
Council McKenna.
Thank you. To the counselor, they're running some sort of an operation there. It's still active.
Yeah.
I think it's on a Wednesday or a Thursday, but they're still taking food out of there.
Yeah.
So if you go by there, you'll see the cones lined up,
Yeah.
and the neighbors are still complaining. So they are running something. I just don't know what it is.
I know, and that's what I've
But-
heard
but
from
the-
my constituents.
Right, but the food hub, it has moved down to the church.
Well, I'm
But they-
making a note to ask Lauren Buck when
Yes,
she gets
thank
here
you.
what the story is. Thank you.
So does anybody know who's running that, by any chance?
Like I said, I think it's a question for Lauren Buck.
Yeah, we'll address that.
That's under her department.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right, moving along.
Okay, Ashley, 2 slides, please. Oh, all right. Small business and nonprofit assistance, 1.3 million. Small business technical assistance, that 720,000. Additional funding for CDBG grant program at 50,000. Restaurant recovery program at 321,000. We had a economic recovery and community planning consultant services at 90,000. Financial aid for youth sport nonprofits at 60,000. and Revere Chamber of Commerce, Small Business Economic Recovery Support at $48,000. The majority of these programs have been completed. The one that is open right now is the Small Business Technical Support and the CDBG, and that would be spearheaded by the planning department. So any questions there? All right. One more slide, guys and girls. Travel and tourism, we budgeted $900,000 to open a travel and tourism events and activities throughout the city. Of the $900,000, we've expended $483,000. We have encumbered $109,000, and that would leave $308,000 that is available for new requests. So I think that it's important for the city to have a travel and tourism department. I think this is a good opportunity to use these funds to ramp up marketing our city and getting visitors to come here. We are realizing over $4 million in rooms and meals tax for fiscal year 2024, and it's my hope that when new administration starts, we could build upon the travel and tourism department with some apportionment of meals and rooms tax. But we did have nice guides go out to the hotels, and we want people to visit the beach and spend their money in the city, and hopefully this can be something that perpetuates itself for long term. And that really concludes the breakdown of the $30 million. I hope that this was helpful for everybody to at least have an idea where the money goes. It sounds like a lot when you get it, and then you kind of start spreading it out, and it goes fast. But I think we're doing some pretty good work with it. We have a pretty sophisticated system of taking requests whereby departments are required to fill out online forms and give us all the details of the programs they're running. We have a 3-member board, myself, the Chief of Planning and Community Development, and the Mayor's Chief of Staff vetted those projects. We'd either give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Then we would bring them before the mayor for final approval. And that's how pretty much everything has been administered with these funds. And right now, we're kind of in a hiatus during the election here, but we continue to do the work as budgeted. So thanks again for the opportunity to present this.
Rich, thank you for that presentation. I think we have a couple final comments.
No, I want to thank you, Rich. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just actually got some information. The end of June, it will be closed down for good. Winthrop Ave will then move over to this parking lot here at City Hall. Well, here.
Do we know who's operating that, or?
It's the food service. Ralph DeChico and the volunteers are still doing the Thursday nights. And at the end of June, it will stop. Beginning of July, we'll start at Winthrop City Hall.
Okay. Okay. Councilor Novoselsky?
Rich, to you, I really didn't get a look at the school department budget, but are we going to get a breakdown like that on the $20 million that the school got?
I would have you ask the superintendent. I believe she's scheduled to come in on the 15th of June, I think, is her rescheduled time. 21st, I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
I will leave all comments on the school department budget to the superintendent.
Thank you.
Councilor Cogliandro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank you, Rich. I only have one question, and it's why haven't you wished Councilor Silvestri a happy birthday yet?
I think I did. I slid one in there. I tried to make it quick for him so we can go celebrate.
Well, everybody good? Okay. Rich, thank you for presenting and all the work that you and your office have done trying to get us the information regarding the opera money. I know I've been pretty much of a pest asking for that stuff, so I appreciate the breakdown.
No problem at all. And any follow-up questions, reach out, email me, call me. I'm happy to provide anything we can give you. But I think the particular departments that are listed here would be best served to give you more of the details. I can kind of just let you know that we're spending the money according to the guidelines presented to us through the government and the feds. So we're doing our best just to manage the funds. And, there's a lot of reporting requirements. There's a lot of audits that come with it. We're getting audited right now. So, we just want to keep us out of the headlines. I think everyone saw that the Commonwealth's in a bit of pickle for $2 billion, so better them than us. Thanks.
Thank you. And, Counsel Zambudo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the leeway. I just wanted to state publicly on the record that we're lucky to have you as the CFO. You're always professional. I'm always comfortable when you give your, even though we don't agree on everything, I am always comfortable when you give your explanations for whatever you're doing. So we hope whoever the new mayor is keeps you on, and I'm sure they will, or they'd be a fool. So I just want to state that publicly, that you'll always have my support because of the way you run the business. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Counsel. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, and this concludes the second meeting of budget hearings. So we'll be back tomorrow at 5 o'clock? 5 o'clock. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Yes?